The Bryce Huff trade rumors are heating up, as the Eagles just got another update at OTAs that all but confirms that Huff is going to be moved very soon. Meanwhile, some underrated offensive weapons have impressed for the Eagles during OTAs, while Jalen Hurts, Kevin Patullo, and the rest of the Eagles offense as a whole have flashed some scary potential. But why do some people still have some concerns? Well, we're going to talk about that and more news from Eagles OTAs starting right now. Eagles OTAs are officially in full swing, and there's been a ton of storylines to follow, whether it's Bryce Huff's absence from practice and all the trade rumors surrounding him, which, trust me, we're going to get into a bit later, or it's the intense positional battles that are just starting up during OTAs right now, whether that's at the safety position between Sidney Brown and Andrew Makuba, or it's the battle at cornerback between Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson that seems like it's going to be a lot closer than expected. And then there's, of course, what's going on with Cooper DeJean, being that he's been playing multiple positions during OTAs, those being his usual nickel spot, but also outside cornerback when the Eagles have been in base sets, which, to me, that was a little bit unexpected. So, again, there's obviously been a lot going on to start off OTAs for the Eagles, and one of the biggest storylines has to be the introduction of offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, as he might just be the biggest question mark that the Birds have going into 2025, which is a little scary considering that he also has the potential to make or break how the season goes. So safe to say, all eyes were on him when he took the podium for his first press conference as offensive coordinator on Wednesday, and all things considered, I think he did pretty well, as he pretty much laid out the plans for the Birds offense in 2025, being that it's going to look very similar to how it did last year, with a few new wrinkles added in here and there, while he also emphasized that the main focus was going to be building off of what the players do best and putting the guys in the best positions to succeed. And yes, it's all very cliche, but that sounds like a smart plan to me, especially considering the fact that Patullo is already very familiar with all the guys that are going to play significant roles for the Birds offense this year. So not only is it obviously great just to have all that familiarity on offense from top to bottom personnel-wise, but it's also great to have a guy running things and calling the plays who has been here for 4 years, has played a large role in creating the offense, and who knows the players' strengths and weaknesses and how to put them in the best positions to succeed. I mean, when you put it like that, it makes perfect sense, and you realize that the Eagles offense has the potential to be even better than it was last year in 2025. Now, that said, there's obviously still concerns out there about Patullo, including his lack of play calling experience, and also his offensive ties with Nick Sirianni, who, as much as I love him, I wouldn't exactly call his offensive scheme and play calling a strength of his. And Patullo didn't exactly do much to calm fans' worries in that regard, as in his press conference, he called Sirianni one of his biggest offensive influences. And again, this had a lot of people concerned, and hey, maybe rightfully so, as of course, we saw how a predominantly Nick Sirianni-led offense turned out to be very disappointing in 2023, but I think it's important to remember that, one, throughout all 4 years Nick has been here, the offenses have been very similar, they just were run differently depending on who the play caller was. And also, two, the 1 year where we saw a lot of new ideas introduced to the Eagles offense was last year, that of course being the year where Kellen Moore got here, and during that season, Patullo played a huge role in combining the two offenses alongside Moore, and he says he learned a lot from that experience.
Anytime you can get around somebody that's different, kind of outside your circle or new, right, it can expand your knowledge, right? It just kind of tests you, and it brings something different to the table and a new piece of information that you may not have had. And him and I worked very closely last year together on, putting the offense together, and it was fun. I learned a lot from him, and I think the same from back and forth, right? We had a lot of conversations back and forth, what he had done in the past, whether it was Dallas or the Chargers, and what we had done here, and trying to bridge that as a staff was unique. That doesn't happen a ton, and it was really, really successful, obviously, but benefiting from his knowledge and being able to ask questions to him and the back and forth conversations, and during games, it was the same kind of thing, the back and forth. We had a very unique relationship. We didn't know each other prior to. And, it went quickly to where we trusted each other, and I could lean on him and he could lean on me. So, working with him last year was a huge benefit.
My hope is that Patullo learned enough from Kellen Moore last season to where he's going to continue to utilize a lot of the things that Moore likes to use in his offenses and his strategies and concepts, things like that. And overall, that aside, I think Patullo's success as an offensive coordinator is just going to honestly come down to how he is as a play caller, and we obviously won't have a verdict on that until we get into the season. So, as I've said all offseason, I'm not going to rush to freak out, and I'm going to give Patullo a legit chance, but I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts currently. What do you think of Kevin Patullo as the offensive coordinator? Are you confident? Are you still worried? Again, just give me all your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, as far as my thoughts on the Eagles' offense during the first practice of OTAs go, there's only so much information that we can get from that, but from the sounds of it, Jalen Hurts and the rest of the guys look pretty good, as according to ESP, aka the king of OTA and training camp stats, Jalen Hurts was a very efficient 20 for 21 on his throws during practice on Wednesday, and while he didn't make any spectacular throws and never really pushed the ball downfield at all, he was apparently very accurate and decisive in what was an overall solid performance. Especially since he didn't have his top two receiving weapons in A.J. Brown, who didn't do team drills, and Devontae Smith, who wasn't there altogether. And their absence gave some of the Eagles' other, more underrated weapons a chance to shine, and that includes backup running back Will Shipley, who I think has a very real shot to beat out A.J. Dillon for the running back 2 job, by the way, and he ended Wednesday's practice with 5 catches on 5 targets, which I'd say that's pretty good. And again, I'm pretty excited to see what Shipley can do this year, and I feel very similarly about wide receiver 3 Jahan Dotson, who finished practice with 3 catches on 3 targets. And again, I think given a full offseason to gain chemistry with Jalen Hurts and just be in the Eagles offense, I think Dotson is going to get more opportunities and just be better overall than he was last season. But perhaps the biggest offensive star of Eagles OTAs so far has been Dallas Goedert. As fresh off renegotiating his contract to remain in Philly for 1 more season, the tight end balled out in Wednesday's practice, putting up 5 catches on 6 targets, while offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo revealed that he was also fantastic in Tuesday's session as well.
Dallas Goedert was a big storyline offseason. Are you sleeping any better knowing he's coming back?
Yes.
How vital?
Yes, no, Dallas is awesome. You could feel his presence out there yesterday and just doing our 7-on-7 stuff. We're so glad to have him back. He brings a very unique, different style of play to the offense, and he's another weapon to add.
I personally am just so grateful to have Dallas Goedert back for at least 1 more year, because as I've said before, he's just so important to this Eagles offense because of what he does, not just in the pass game catching the ball, but also blocking in the run game. I mean, he's one of those guys whose impact goes beyond the stat sheet. So again, I couldn't be happier to have him back, and despite all the uncertainty surrounding his future in Philly that's going to come after this year, it sounds like Goedert isn't too worried about that, and he's excited to be back too.
I'm really excited about this year. Obviously, I'd love to play my entire career in Philadelphia, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm excited to see what happens this year. Excited to put up a really good year, have a successful year with an incredible team, and let my agent handle his job and talks after the season. But like I said, I'm excited to be back, and we'll play this year and be the best player I can be, to be the best teammate I can be, and let the rest of it work itself out.
Personally, I do think that this is going to be Dallas Goedert's last year in Philadelphia, so hopefully he can stay healthy, have a great season, and go out the right way. And someone else who I'm hoping stays healthy and has another great year is star running back Saquon Barkley. And don't get me wrong, I think he will. I just say this because of the extremely heavy workload that Barkley had last season, leading the entire NFL in touches. But that doesn't seem to have slowed him down at all entering OTAs this year, as Kevin Patullo had this to say about the star running back.
Yeah, he's been great. I mean, he looks like the same guy. I mean, it's unbelievable how he's able to do that and continue to go day in and day out. And he looked in, regular season mode yesterday running routes, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just expecting another fantastic performance and season from Saquon Barkley going into his 2nd year with the Birds. And overall, just getting back to the Eagles offense as a whole, I definitely like the limited information that we've seen and heard coming out of OTAs. I mean, again, it's not very much, but it sounds like the guys have looked good during practice. They're slowly implementing new things into the offense and building on what they had last year, and it also sounds like Kevin Patullo is adjusting nicely as the offensive coordinator. So I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I think the Eagles offense has potential to be even better this year than it was last year, and from the sound of it, OTAs have been a small but important step in that direction so far. Moving on though, we also just got a pretty important update on edge rusher Bryce Huff coming out of OTAs, as of course, like I talked about in my last video, Huff was absent during the media open practice on Wednesday, and with all the trade rumors surrounding him this offseason, that seemed to me like a clear indication that something was going on behind the scenes, that likely being that the Eagles are working to find a trade partner and are ready to ship Huff out after June 1st, which is of course when a trade becomes much more financially digestible for them. And based on a report that we just got on Thursday morning, it seems like my assumption was right, as Jeff McClain reported that not only has Huff not been at any voluntary workouts for the Eagles this spring, but he's also not expected to be a part of the Eagles' plans in 2025. So yeah, I mean, there you go. It certainly seems like the writing is on the wall, and a Bryce Huff trade could be coming very soon. And as much as it sucks that this is the way it's turning out after the Birds signed him to a big contract last offseason, that's just the way it works out sometimes. And luckily, Howie Roseman has done a fantastic job of building up the edge rusher group with exciting pieces so they can move on from Huff. And several of those guys have actually flashed some awesome potential recently. So I'm going to talk about all that in a video very soon, but in the meantime, if you don't want to miss that or any other Eagles coverage that I got coming throughout OTAs, training camp, or just the rest of this offseason in general, then make sure you guys subscribe and you turn on notifications. Again, trust me, you're not going to want to miss any of my Eagles coverage. So again, sub, turn on notifications, and hit the like button as well, because that really helps me out a ton and it shows me a ton of support. Let's see if we can get to at least 500 likes on today's video. I would greatly appreciate it. And also, leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. Do you think a Bryce Huff trade is coming soon? And how good do you think the Eagles offense is going to be in 2025? Again, I'd love to hear all your guys' thoughts on that. And also, if you want to watch another Eagles video going more in-depth on some of the biggest storylines from day one of Eagles OTA practices, or at least ones open to the media, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.